All right, guys, what's going on? We're back here on the Conquer Athlete YouTube channel. And on today's talk, I'm going to be talking about fatigue management, one of the core principles of strength and conditioning, why it's so important, and how it applies to everything that we do. Fatigue management is essentially the skill that makes our training work, or it can wreck it if we don't manage fatigue well enough. If you feel smoked every day, congrats. You're not hardcore, you're just under-recovered. Fatigue isn't a badge of honor, it's a tax. And if we don't manage it, it's gonna collect from us. Most people, they don't need more grit. They need a plan that doesn't treat their nervous system like a rental car. So today we're gonna break down what fatigue management is, why it matters, how people get it wrong, and how to get it right, especially in the sports, in the mixed modal sports, CrossFit, high rocks, tactical games, mixed martial artists, etc. So what is fatigue management? Fatigue management is controlling the cost of training so you can repeat quality outputs over weeks, possibly months, without stalling or getting hurt. We're going to understand that there's two main buckets of fatigue management. We have local fatigue and we have systemic fatigue. Local fatigue is that muscle, that tendon region. Our quads are on fire, our biceps are blown up. Systemic fatigue is a whole system. Everything comes into play here. Our sleep's down, our motivation down, our heart rate's up, our performance is down. Some key points to think about. Fitness improves from stimulus and recovery, not stimulus alone. Training is the signal. Recovery is the adaptation window. A great program without fatigue management is like a Ferrari with no oil change. It's going to be amazing until it isn't. But why does this matter? This is something to keep in mind. Performance quality is a real driver of adaptation. Strength, power, skill, speed all depend on repeatable quality reps. If your fatigue is too high, you stop training the target quality and you start practicing compensation. For example, you might think you're training speed, but you're sprinting with brakes on. You think you're training strength, but you're just grinding through the weight. Fatigue management protects the levers that matter: your tendons, nervous system readiness, your ability to maintain proper technique under load, fatigue, stress, volume. It prevents the plateau cycle. What is this? Well, too much fatigue leads to a performance dip. Performance dip leads to the athlete complaining and wanting more work, which means more, and then they need a new program. Rinse, wash, and repeat. Or too much fatigue, overreached, overtrained. Now we're in a lot of trouble. If your answer to fatigue and always feeling tired is more suffering, you're not building grit. You're building a plateau, probably some tendonitis and aches and pains along the way. Fatigue management is something that is drastically, in my opinion, especially with inside mixed modal sports, not thought about enough. So how do coaches get this wrong? Well, number one is confusing effort with effectiveness. Hard isn't a training goal. It's a sensation. The goal is a specific adaptation. Any fool can make a hard training plan or a hard workout. Any fool can leave somebody falling on the ground in sweat and exhaustion. But how do you make a workout plan that's going to leave the athlete feeling better and still drive adaptation towards a goal? That's what we're thinking about. The second mistake is there's no true exposure plan. They do test weeks, training weeks are crazy high volume, too many high intensity days stacked within inside of a week, stacked right next to each other. Another way is we ignore life stressors: work, kids, sleep, activity, our NEAT score, nutrition, travel. All these things count. It's our total stress load. So total stress load is total stress plus life stress. Everybody's different here, but we have to take this into account. Nutrition, poor hydration. Lots of times, right? We're not just under training, we're under sleeping, right? We got to make sure that we have everything intact to truly push intensity, volume, and to manage fatigue well. We're chasing soreness and HR spikes. DOMS, delayed onset muscular soreness, is not a KPI. Heart rate is super useful, but maxing out your heart rate every single day isn't conditioning. It's continually burning down your system. And also, we're not discussing fatigue limiters. Training one limiter per session is great. Some people can handle two, depending upon intensity and focus of stressors within inside that session. But every single day, when we're crushing every single limiter, we're going to run into the interference effect. We're going to limit our body's ability to adapt. We have too much going on, too much being put onto the system, and it's fatigue overload. The problem when we get it wrong is simply comes down to these four things. Interference effect. Strength, power qualities get buried under endurance fatigue and vice versa. Skill decay. Injury creeps up and confidence drops. So when we get fatigue management wrong, all these things can come into play. Where inside of a single session, we have too much going on. So every single focus, priority, stressor is going to interfere with one another. Skill can drop, injury creeps up, our body's more achy, not feeling good, not feeling ready to train, and our confidence from all this can drop dramatically. Now, for high-level athletes, this can be very challenging, right? We can't have that confidence dip, that confidence drop, and we can't have them constantly feeling smoked and beat down. So how do we get it right? Well, we want to start with the simplest model: stimulus and recovery, then repeat. We want to ask 3 main questions for every single session. What's the main stimulus for today? What's the fatigue cost? And can I repeat quality outputs tomorrow, day after, this week, next week? We want to use a weekly structure that respects intensity. And this can vary, but from a blueprint standpoint for this talk, think 2 to 3 high days per week, 3 max. The rest is support work: aerobics, strength technique, skill, accessories, tempo, quality, volume. This can hold true for strength work, strength power program, as well as a mixed modal program. Now, keep in mind, this is blueprint. Lots of people live from a black and white, not in the gray. Some people might be able to handle more high intense days. Some people won't. We have to keep this and take this into account. We want to manage fatigue with dials, not feelings. What does this mean? Well, we need to manage volume, intensity, density, frequency, exercise selection, and skill complexity, right? So volume is our sets, reps, and total work. Intensity is our load, our speed, our RPE. Density is work to rest ratio, as well as how much work we're doing on subsequent days. Frequency, how often we repeat that stressor. Exercise selection, joint stress. Skill complexity, high skill under high fatigue. That can be very expensive for some people, especially at different points of the year. We can think about guardrails on a session. This can help with fatigue as well. We have stop sets when speed drops or reps change shape, positions get lost, technique gets lost in the intensity and volume. We want to keep one main limiter. These things can help us manage fatigue for certain athletes. Now, this can all change and vary up and down that continuum depending upon who the person is. Make sure we're always thinking about deloads and reloads on purpose. Have a plan here. Whatever that is, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, we have a deload. We reduce volume and or intensity, both. It's not quitting. We're banking adaptation. We're letting the body recover from that training block, and then we reload it back up. We can also think about tracking readiness and simple metrics: sleep duration, quality, resting heart rate, HRV, mood, motivation, soreness, joint pain, and performance markers. If these things are all tracking up and in the green, then we can continually build. If they're out and some markers are down, well, then we don't need to have a motivational speech and drive it up. We have to back off and get them to recover. So let's talk about some specifics between strength and conditioning athletes as well as mixed modal athletes. So when we think about strength and conditioning athletes, we got to think about fatigue management. We need to protect output quality. Heavy CNS days need spacing, and we need more control over the variables. When we think about mixed modal athletes, CrossFit athletes, fatigue management is a sport. Skill under fatigue matters, but we have to earn it. We can't train competition intensity year round. We need specific phases: a base, a build, sport specific, peak, competition. Mixed modal athletes reward the athletes who can suffer, but it punishes those who suffer randomly and too often throughout the year. Trust me on that. So in closing, think about it like this: fatigue isn't the enemy. Mismanaged fatigue is. The goal isn't to feel fresh all the time. The goal is to be adapted over time. Fatigue management is such an important principle of strength and conditioning that applies to everything we do. And we have to keep this in mind when we're writing programs. And this is why the more strong your foundation is with fatigue management, the better programs you can write, the better training blocks, utilizing phase potentiation, bringing that athlete throughout that year, understanding periodization to get them to where they want to be, meeting where they are, getting them to where they want to be, and building it and allowing for fatigue and recovery to drive adaptation so we can keep getting closer and moving down that continuum for them. Hope you guys found this useful. I'll see you on the next one.